communion with aliens. All right. I think, again, go back to MJ-12, go back to the Roswell nonsense, go back to Project Blue Book, and all of these fake disinformation campaigns designed to promote the alien mythos. It was really preparing people my age and younger for this coming disclosure stuff, the revelation of alien life and the 180 days till the Pentagon releases all the UFO, blah, blah, blah. That's what all of this has been leading up to. Just like Great Reset is a big part of the long-term plan to bring in, this thing. This is part of that. That's why Klaus says the alien story is going to be part of what you're going to see in the near future. Mm-hmm. And what better than E.T.? Because E.T. is about pulling on your heartstrings. Right? This is not a destroy the world type of thing. This is a touching of your heart, pulling your heartstrings, mm-hmm. and finding, communion with what is more or less a kind of I said in my book that he's more like a familiar spirit, because the types of things that E.T. does is what a familiar spirit's supposed to do.
He's an elemental. He's a gooey, mm-hmm. ooey, gooey, gross, like ugly, smelly creature. And watching this as an adult was so different than, because when you're a kid, you think they're cute.
Well, he does free all the little frogs, so
yeah.
He's like hero to the Pepes. Like he's somebody should make an E.T. Pepe. That'd be funny.
But I wouldn't want my kid playing with this gooey alien who links up psychically with him.
Well, yeah, there's all these weird things about him being mystically linked to Elliot. And by the way, Elliot, E-L-L-I-O-T, Elliot, E-T. You see, they're mystically connected, symbolically connected. The names. This movie, a lot of people miss this, and this is very similar to Close Encounters. It's actually a movie about signs, symbols, semiotics, and communication, language. It's all about how we communicate, not just amongst one another, but to the beyond, right? So I will actually give some credit to the philosophy of this movie, that it is told from the vantage point of a kid. That's why you see so many camera angles are low down at the level of E.T. or a kid. It's all about E.T. learning our way of doing things, right? Like how would an alien, if he looked down upon what we do, it would look ridiculous, a lot of what we do, right? Like when Elliot is explaining the way toys work and the way money works and the way Reese's Pieces work, it's very interesting from a philosophical perspective because it's told from the vantage point of a kid and it wouldn't make sense, right? Because he says the shark eats the fish and he's got a toy shark, right? So yeah. Everything is mixed up. It's all told from the vantage point of E.T. and from a kid. And so it's about communicating with different types of people, different types of beings, and it's about language. That's the totality of what Close Encounters is about too. It's semiotics.
Mm-hmm. So it starts out with these little guys in their cute little ship, and they're having some kind of biosphere project going on. Oh, and this was part of the day the Earth stood still too, when they were collecting specimens for Ark. They were getting animals and DNAs mm-hmm. in the Ark, so this is another little project that these aliens.
And also, I mean, does Elliot channel E.T.? Like, does he? I mean, this is what happens in Stranger Things, right? If you remember Stranger Things, it's hearkening to E.T. because they're playing Dungeons and Dragons and they invoke this, whatever the Gorgon, whatever it's called in Stranger Things, right? The same thing going on here where they play D&D. And this links somehow Elliot to E.T. So there's this mystical connection to the extent that when E.T. gets drunk, when he's drinking that Coors Boomer beer, right? Mm-hmm. Elliot gets drunk mm-hmm. in class. And Elliot is motivated to start the frog revolution, right? Because E.T.'s, like maybe they're turning the frogs gray, right? So he lets loose the frogs, the frog revolution. And then he kisses the girl, so he gets strength from this. So is this, and a lot of times you'll notice that the aliens seem to show up at puberty time, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, they were playing Dungeons and Dragons at the beginning of the movie.
I just said that.
brothers were. I know. And then you were talking about the moon symbolism.
Right. Well, there's planetary symbolism all throughout this movie. So the
of,
brother has a Jupiter on his shirt.
Yeah.
There's a Saturn. Right. There's a Saturn. There's Star Wars stuff all in the bedroom. That's classic Spielberg stuff. But in the classroom, the planets are all over the walls. The other thing that doesn't make sense in this movie is why do the government agents show up to Elliot's house wearing Apollo mission suits?
Yeah, that's really weird.
Does anybody have? I've never known or understood why this is the case. I mean, in the rest of the movie, they have hazmat suits. They show up in hazmat suits. So my only guess is that this is referencing, just the whole totality of the space mythos is BS, right?
I want to know why he was so spry in the forest in the beginning, and then he's like all lumbering and
right.
sluggish. And
Yeah, when he's running from Peter Coyote, he's like, darting around like a rabbit.
Like a bunny.
Yeah, and then like when he's running around, he's like incapacitated midget.
E.T.'s gross. I don't like him anymore. I changed my mind.
It is weird. It's a bizarre thing, and he connects through the third eye, just like Willie Strieber's Communion. He touches Elliot's third eye.
He has telekinetic healing powers and life-giving powers. There's also an element of Peter Pan in this movie, and the spirit world and fairies.
That's right. We're supposed to link E.T. to fairies because at one point when the mom. By the way, I was on a radio show with that woman, the mom. I forget her name, Dawn something. But I was on a radio show about 5 years ago, and she was on right after me. I wanted to ask her some ET questions, and I forgot. But she reads the story to Gertie about Peter Pan and about fairies, and Gertie's like, "I do believe in fairies. I do believe in fairies." So we're supposed to be linking fairies and this to E.T. because, as Jamie pointed out, he makes them fly like Peter Pan does, right? And by the way, as Jamie pointed out, why didn't E.T. fly back to his ship at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Like he has the ability to fly, but he doesn't fly back to the ship.
Because you said the movie was about him making contact with Elliot and falling in love with the Earth Boy. And the Earth Boy says, "I love you" at the end, and his heart comes back. And then he comes out in a white robe with a glowy heart, looks like that Catholic Jesus Sacred Heart thing.
Oh, I never thought about E.T. as the Sacred Heart. Yeah. Interesting.
Remember his heart's glowing? He's got a white robe and he's
I just didn't think about Sacred Heart. So the new Jesus is, again, aliens.
Yeah.
God is alien.
Yeah. So, and then there's a funny scene where they take him out as a Halloween ghost, and he sees Yoda and recognizes him as another alien. So, in the Spielberg universe is the same as the Star Wars. Let's see. The real mission was to connect with Elliot, and then there was that.
I didn't realize this until the last time I watched it. Right. So because you always watch it thinking E.T. was stranded. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But I just realized this last time. No. He is stranded, but he's there on a mission. His mission, right? E.T.'s mission is not to collect the frogs and the specimens like the rest of his crew. His mission is to connect with Elliot. Elliot is thus the chosen vessel for disclosure. That's the point of the story. I never got that until this last viewing.
Because he said, "He chose me. He chose
me."
Yeah.
So I watched this movie since the 80s, and I never caught that.
Yeah.
By the way, Peter Coyote, who plays the Keys character because of his jingling keys, Solomon's Keys, by the way, Keys of Solomon, is a lifelong dedicated Marxist and I think Laurel Canyon figure. Yeah, I think Dave McGowan mentions Peter Coyote in Weird Scenes as a Marxist, quote unquote, Laurel Canyon character.
Well, he says at the end when E.T. is in his like powdered donut phase. And
that was my joke.
Elliot's on the bed.
Beignet. Yeah. Beignet tea.
He looks
Beignet
like
tea.
Donut hole. Peter Coyote says, him being here is a miracle. Remember?
Yeah, religious terminology used. Right, good point. And he brings things back to life. He resurrects. That's another point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, basically, Elliot and E.T. both die and resurrect.
Yes.
So there's this death, burial, resurrection motif too that I never really thought about until this last time watching it.
And he has healing powers because he's like, dude, And then at the end, he does the third eye. He's like, I'll be right here. So you've got all of these aliens touching kids' third eyes. I don't like it.
So the message of the alien stories is simply that the Bible was not true, right? The Bible was telling you that there's one true God and he created you and he's your savior, your redeemer. He came down, became incarnate to save you, to know you, to be united to your nature. And that's all not true. It's really the gods from the ancient world of the high places, right? The ancient aliens are the true God. They're our creators and we are their experiment, right? And that harmonizes perfectly with Darwinism, doesn't it? Well, yes, of course it does. All of the alien cults are an initiation into Darwinism.
I think half of what makes this movie so endearing was Drew Barrymore's character. Because E.T. is this amphibious, gross, like, snotty frog thing. And I just don't like him. But at the end, do you remember when he gets back into his ship and they take off? There's a new rainbow. So what do you think that symbolizes?
Well, again, mythology, we had elves.
Yeah.
Leprechauns, Over the Rainbow.
Yeah.
MK Ultra.
Yeah.
Wizard of Oz. The Noahic Covenant. Right? What's the covenant with mankind? It's the rainbow in terms of Noah. Right? The Noahic Covenant, it's the rainbow. E.T., rainbow. So it is, again, rife with religious symbology, which you don't really pick up until you're more, sophisticated, you're older, you're able to pick that stuff up. And by the way, if you do want a deeper analysis of E.T. in terms of more of the esoteric and religious symbology, you can get a copy of Esoteric Hollywood 1 at Jason Analysis. There's a shop. If you go to jasonanalysis.com, there's a shop link, and then just click the link. Yes, all of the copies that you buy from us are signed copies. Now, sometimes Jamie's book is back ordered because it comes from Amazon, and so those aren't always signed. If we have them in stock, they're signed. But all of my copies of Esoteric Hollywood 1 and 2 are signed. And I have, in both books, lengthy sections analyzing the whole of the alien mythos and mythology. I've been saying for many, many years, this is a really important trend to watch and to not be duped and propagandized by. And so that's why, because this is being pushed so heavily in the news of late, they really ramped this stuff up. That's why we're covering a lot of this alien nonsense, jibber jabber, and that's why January is Alien Month at Jason House. We may have to extend it because there's so many alien movies. There's so much information in these alien films that you really have to just decode and pick apart